Welcome to Val's Sweet Kitchen. At the center of all this lusciousness and deliciousness is not just one huge sponge, but two. So get out two huge deep pans, preheat your oven to 325, and let's go have some fun. We're gonna start with the pans. Spray each pan down and put a parchment in the bottom. Take all your dry ingredients and we're gonna whisk those all together. 3 1/3 cup of regular all-purpose flour and 2/3 cup of cocoa powder, 1 teaspoon of baking soda. The baking soda is the ingredient that makes it rise. 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt, and I'm just going to eyeball this. Whisk this all together so it's thoroughly mixed all around the bowl. You want to make sure to spread that baking soda all around evenly so it mixes evenly. And now for our wet ingredients. To 1 2/3 cup of buttermilk, and I'm using real buttermilk because I'm not messing around with these jumbo sponges. Add 2 teaspoons of white vinegar, 1 1/2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and 8 teaspoons of liquid food coloring, red. 1. And set this aside while we work on our sugar and butter. You're gonna take 300 grams of butter. That's 1 1/3 cups, plus 2 2/3 cup of sugar, and beat those together for about 3 to 5 minutes. It'll get all nice and fluffy. And make sure it's at room temperature. I pulse it too. That way everything doesn't fly all over the place. Just to get it started. You'll notice that after all that time, the butter and sugar is lighter and fluffier. Look at that. And it's increased in volume. But there's butter hiding at the bottom of the bowl. So you've got to scrape it all down. Give that a whiz, and we're gonna put in the eggs one at a time. You put in an egg, whoops, or 2. Incorporate it, and then put in 1 more egg. And stick around to the end because I'm going to show you what to do with those 4 egg whites. And then add your 4 whole eggs, one at a time. And give your bowl one last scrape down. You can see some of the egg is not fully all the way in yet. All right. So now we're going to alternate between the dry and the wet ingredients. We're going to start with the dry and end with the dry. And you add it in 1/3 at a time. This is pretty much standard for the creaming method when it comes to cakes. And that's what we're doing today. And pulse it so the flour doesn't go all over the place. And about half the wet. And again, pulse it. It's kind of like you're starting up a car. And this is a perfect example of why you scrape down the bowl periodically. We want to get everything fully and equally mixed. And the last of the dry, and see how creamy and smooth this batter is? That's because we mixed everything at room temperature. And then just divide it evenly between your two pans. I almost forgot the cake strips. All these are is a strip of fabric that goes around the outside of your pan. You soak it in water, and what that does is it gives you a flat top every time. Don't have to mess around with the oven temperature or anything. And bake for 1 hour and 10 minutes to 1 hour and 20 minutes until a toothpick comes out clean. And at 55 minutes, put a tent over top to prevent excess browning. While our jumbo sponges are cooling, whip up a batch of Swiss Meringue Buttercream, and here's my video right here. I also left a link below. To that, add a whole jar of fruit spread, strawberry fruit spread, 489 grams. I know, at first I thought, isn't that going to make the frosting runny and everything? But it doesn't. And just paddle it right on in there. And if you want, add just a little bit of red food coloring, a little bit at a time. Because once you put it in, you can't take it out. Now for the ganache, in between the layers, you just take your chocolate, a 1/4 cup of hot water, and there you go. It's all melted together. And set this aside to chill and firm up a bit. Otherwise, if it's too warm, it'll melt the buttercream. I got a slight dome this time, but that's probably because I didn't soak my cake strips before putting them in the oven. So I'm just gonna carve this right off. And if you get one at home too, this is how you do it. You just take it and very gradually and slowly work your way around. I leave it on the cooling grate, that way it's easier to maneuver. And once it's cooled all the way, you gotta make sure it's cooled all the way, you can cut them in half. Very slowly, just let the knife do the work. Now for the strawberry compote, that's real easy. You take 220 grams of chopped up strawberries, 1/3 cup of sugar, mash it just a little bit. This is where my avocado masher helps out. And on medium heat, bring it to a boiling and it'll thicken right up. And when your spoon or your spatula leaves a distinct trail, it's ready. Set this aside and let it cool while we do the rest of the cake. Right, and now we put it all together, our gourmet cake. Take a little dab of your buttercream. We're gonna put a thin layer of buttercream on the top here. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna keep the chocolate from sinking into the sponge underneath it. And we're gonna create a little pool for our ganache. I like to chop up my fruit, that way when you cut into your cake, you don't end up dragging solid pieces of fruit all the way down the sides, and your pieces look nice. And the last layer. I thought about adding strawberry compote in between the layers, but I didn't think it would make it stable. I thought it would be more like a cheesecake when you went to slice into it. So this is the same flavor and more stable. Now I pipe it on like using this tip, so that way I don't have to do a crumb coat. It's kind of got a crumb coat on it already. Chill your cake in the freezer for at least 10 minutes or in the refrigerator for 30 minutes before doing the cake drip. That way you'll have more control. And for your chocolate cake drip, you'll want to loosen up the water ganache a little bit more unless you like it chunky. I like a thinner cake drip, so I'm going to add more water. And it's really more or less up to your preference, whatever you like to do. Here are a couple of different ways to do a cake drip. A parchment cone gives me the most control. Or you can use a tablespoon to drip your chocolate down the side. And we'll pour the pool of compote on. Oh, look at that. Wow. This is awesome. I hope you had fun today. If you did, give it a like, thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to boop the bell. That way you get notified when I make my next video. This is awesome.